Hey, I'm Tariq Melrose. You know you're in trouble when the most honest thing in a political speech is the awkward pause. Today's moment of silence spoke volumes, more than the speech ever could. Lucky for you, I specialize in interpreting what they didn't say. Subscribe and stick around because silence can be deafening. And I'm here to translate.
If this breakdown made your blood boil and your spine straighten, you're not alone. Subscribe to Tariq Melrose Vlogs, where we fight lies with facts, expose Republican hypocrisy, and protect the Constitution from the people pretending to defend it. Smash that bell, share the truth, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Because this fight isn't over, and neither are we. Stay alert, stay loud, stay free.
Gallego.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary Noem, for attendance today. Let me start by also agreeing with Senator Moreno on some things, and I think it is positive the Trump administration has provided stronger border security to keep illegal border crossings as close to zero as possible. We definitely have seen that in Arizona. My concern is that it's not sustainable. It's expensive. And that's why I recently released a common sense border security that would make it sustainable and would actually deliver long-term solutions. But let me get to my first question. Your department is overspending right now. It's on track to run out of money again by mid-July to support a mass deportation campaign that can't be afforded. At the same time, though, you recently requested a $50 million allotment for a private Gulfstream jet. That's $50 million of taxpayer money to subsidize some of your national tours that you've been going on. Meanwhile, Republicans are about to kick another 13 million people off Medicaid to fund taxes for the rich on the backs of some working class Americans. So how can you justify spending millions, 50 million, on a jet while your department is definitely overspending and Republicans in Congress are about to strip also health care from millions of Americans?
Well, Senator, thank you for the question. We are spending our dollars appropriately and will be on budget. When your reference to the airframe that was the requested dollars were put in for, that's for the Coast Guard. It's to replace an existing jet that is over 20 years old and is beyond its usable hours. And the Coast Guard for many, many years has been neglected and has many airframe that have been grounded because they can't even be maintained anymore. The suppliers that give us parts and repairs and maintenance for them have said that they'll no longer support that kind of a mission. We have cutters that haven't been completed, that haven't been deployed out across the world. And then we also, beyond that, are asking for a request to build out the number of Coast Guard members that we need in place. We're asking for 15,000 more to complete the missions that are going forward.
Are you going to have access to that $50 million Gulfstream jet that the Coast Guard is going to supply?
The Coast Guard will use that jet exactly how it uses the jets that it has today, exactly in the same manner that it uses the ones that it has in place today.
So would you consistently be using it to travel?
I don't know if I would use that one or if I would use the other one. I have no idea. But I do spend time out there with our components, making sure that they are know that they have a secretary that's engaged with them, that's visiting with them, seeing what their needs are. No, sir, they're not photos. They've meant the world to the individuals at the Department of Homeland Security. They have meant the world to our ICE agents, our border agents. When they ask me to be out there with them, so they know what their lives are like.
Talking to some law enforcement, besides those under DHS, we've also seen some law enforcement that have been pulled away from investigations, such as child porn, sex trafficking. We've had some agents pulled in that were doing investigations on bank fraud that are now, provisional ICE agents. And I think creating and making them do this type of work is also making us more and more dangerous, since they're not actually doing this long-term investigation. On the other hand, I have talked to some border chiefs and sheriffs repeatedly, and they've been highlighting the danger associated with cartels targeting teenagers in border communities through social media apps and recruiting them to participate in smuggling operations. And one of the bills I introduced with several colleagues here, actually, is the Combating Cartels on Social Media Act, which will help DHS counter this threat. Arizona communities cannot wait for the legislative process to play out on this. What is DHS doing to solve this problem and help keep American children and communities safe from cartel criminal activity and recruitment too?
Well, that is the problem that we have with the longer that they're here, the more established they become and the more they recruit individuals who may live in this country, U.S. citizens, or even our kids to be a part of
Some of
their
them are actually
operations.
on the other side too. It's both sides.
What do you mean on their side?
Some of the cartels are using social media on, let's say, Mexico,
Yes,
wherever.
definitely they
So
are.
it's back and forth.
Yes, they definitely are, but they also are infiltrating our country still by recruiting our children to be a part of their
Yes, that's the
networks.
problem, yeah.
So we're working with not just the experts that we have within CBP and ICE, but also using our other components to address some of the sophistication that we've seen in these apps, as far as CISA and partnerships that they may have with private industry that can give us insight in what we can do to deploy our own counter-terrorist activities and applications to those systems, what we can do to make sure that we're stopping their ability to communicate with our children and bringing awareness. The Department of Homeland Security has programs in different areas, such as the
and I
Know
just-
to
but
Protect and the
can-
other programs you may be
And
familiar
have you
with.
been able to
that-
work directly with the social media companies, though, not just through the
We
legislative
have had
process?
conversations with the social media companies, and
because
we've,
by the time we get around to doing it,
Right.
we're losing more and more people. So like having a very direct conversation and a concentrated effort to actually have outcomes is going to be quicker because they have the option to do it. We don't have to come in and do it. They just choose not to because they'd rather make more money than anything else.
well, that may be, but I found them very willing to come to the table. I've had myself spent dozens of hours with them, and my team has spent hundreds of hours visiting with them on what we can do to be much more proactive. So they've got some solutions that we can pursue. We'll be coming to you with some of those ideas, but I think it's important that we use their knowledge of this way of communication and recruitment to help protect our children.
Get back.
Senator Ernst.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Secretary.
Welcome back to Tariq Melrose Vlogs, where we don't let political gaslighting slide, not when the Constitution's on the line. Today we're talking about one of the most alarming moments of governmental ignorance caught on camera. A Trump administration official, Secretary Noem, floundering on live television when asked to explain one of the most fundamental rights in American democracy, habeas corpus. Let me be absolutely clear. If your government can't even define the constitutional principle that protects you from unlawful detention, you're not living in a democracy. You're teetering on the edge of authoritarianism. When asked point blank to define habeas corpus, Secretary Noem gave a jaw-dropping answer. She claimed it was the president's constitutional authority to remove people from the country and suspend their rights. What? That's not just wrong. It's dangerous. Habeas corpus isn't about removing people. It's about protecting everyone, citizen or not, from being imprisoned without a reason. It's what separates the United States from police states like North Korea and Russia. Thank goodness for the Democrat in the room who had the spine to stop her right there and correct the record. He laid it out simply. Habeas corpus means the government must give a public legal reason for arresting and detaining a person. Without it, we're no better than dictatorships. It's the legal firewall that keeps tyranny in check. This was more than a flub. It was an exposure of the creeping rot in MAGA world's understanding of the Constitution. We've seen Republicans use phrases like law and order as shields to justify authoritarian overreach. But now they want to suspend habeas corpus altogether. That's not patriotism. That's fascism in slow motion. And let's not pretend this was just some harmless misstatement. The Trump administration has been actively testing the limits of executive power. From Muslim bans to family separations to defying court orders, their track record is clear. If they could detain you without cause and strip you of rights, they absolutely would. Secretary Noem eventually walked back her statement, claiming she supports habeas corpus and would follow court orders. But by then, the damage was done. You can't stumble on something this basic and expect to be trusted with power. This isn't complicated legal theory, it's high school civics. Even when pressed again, if a president suspends habeas corpus and a federal court reverses that decision, would she follow the court? She gave a half-hearted yes and tried to spin the administration's record as compliant. That would be laughable if it weren't terrifying. The reality is, Trump's team has defied court orders multiple times. Ask anyone deported by mistake, anyone denied due process, anyone brutalized at the border. These are not hypotheticals. They're facts. This isn't just about one official being unprepared. It's about a Republican Party that's grown comfortable dancing on the edge of authoritarianism. And the rest of us? We've got to stop pretending that these slip-ups are harmless. They're not. They're warnings. And if you needed further proof of the sheer incompetence on display, look no further than the rest of the hearing. When Secretary Noem was questioned about the DHS budget being on track to run out by July, she had no real answer, just vague justification for $50 million being requested for a luxury Gulfstream jet, supposedly for the Coast Guard. At a time when Republicans are preparing to kick millions off Medicaid, we're supposed to believe this administration is concerned about working Americans. It's a joke, and a cruel one at that. Instead of accountability, we got more theater. Instead of answers, more spin. And on top of all this, a so-called Homeland Security leader couldn't even confirm whether she'd be using the taxpayer-funded jet. Because hey, maybe she'll use the other one. Must be nice to have options when Americans are being denied health care. As if that wasn't insulting enough, we then got more deflections on real security threats. Drug cartels recruiting American teens on social media, AI-powered scams draining billions from vulnerable seniors, Chinese-manufactured infrastructure components risking national security. And what's the response? Vague partnerships, talking points, no urgency, no leadership. The Department of Homeland Security is supposed to be the firewall protecting Americans. Under Trump and his hand-picked ideologues, it's become a smokescreen for incompetence, waste, and authoritarian creep. If this hearing proved anything, it's that the Trump administration has no business pretending to be the party of law and order. They are the party of constitutional confusion, legal chaos, and national vulnerability. The Democrats in the room showed real leadership, rooted in law, grounded in facts, and unafraid to challenge ignorance. That's what governing looks like. That's what accountability looks like. And we need more of it, because at the end of the day, this isn't just about politics. It's about the integrity of our republic. It's about ensuring that every American, regardless of race, religion, immigration status, or political belief, is protected from the abuses of unchecked power. That starts with knowing what habeas corpus is. And if Trump's people can't even manage that, they have no business leading anything, let alone the United States of America. Trump's Homeland Security spent $50 million on a jet, while millions lose Medicaid and kids get recruited by cartels. Watch the full clip as we expose the hypocrisy, waste, and authoritarian rot of this administration, only on Tariq Melrose Vlogs.